Yeah, I really appreciate you all having me on. Science Bob, like you said, we've been on a couple things with Spaced Out Radio, some other places, and yeah, it's always a great conversation. And looking forward to maybe getting into Dave's show. We pretty much stick with the UFO topic, but I really want to get into the other stuff if possible too. The
Definitely.
all the
No, no,
different.
we want you to cover whatever you because you are like us. She since birth has been into the stuff. And I had strange experiences all through childhood, not quite like hers. But after going visiting Chris Bledsoe, my last 4 years have been full of weird. And after we got together, it went through the roof. So we are really interested in anything you have to tell us about and want to share, not just UFOs, which I'm glad you're in.
Yeah, I mean it's there. My first experience going all the way back to when I was young was more like a psychic type experience where I was asleep and I jumped up and sat up in the bed I was in and started talking about my dad being in danger. And my mom found out a few days later that he had actually been in a fire.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't injured, thankfully, but it was coincided with me having that experience. And so, that's probably my earliest, we'll call it woo experience. But I mean, I've had things that run the gamut. A lot of ghost stuff, a lot of intuitive kind of psychic moments and things like that. And I'm really just over the last probably 4 years since I had my big experience that kind of set me on this path. Everything has just been accelerated learning course. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. It's been a wild 4 years. And today, even I was talking to one of my daughters about the woo, and she said, I like that my third eye is open, but sometimes I wish that I didn't know about the stuff that I know about, and
Right.
and I can certainly empathize, right?
Can you kind of go into what happened to you a
Sure,
few years ago?
yeah. So I was getting ready to do my very first podcast with a dear friend of mine. We started our show, it was called Fearscape at the time, became Fearscape Paranormal, and then we eventually changed its name to the Convergence Enigma, and then we kind of let it end there. But at the time, I was just getting ready to start doing my first podcast. In 1 week, 7 days prior to recording the first episode, I had the most realistic and amazing dream that I had ever had before in my life. Now, I've always had the ability to remember most of my dreams. That's never really been an issue for me. Um, but this was so vivid and so intense that it just really stuck with me. And even today, 4 years later, I can still tell you all the things about the dream that stuck with me then. Um, so basically, in the dream, I was standing at my grandparents' farm in the front field, which is a time was a space that when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time at with my brother and my parents and things like that. So it was a very familiar place as far as in my mind. And I'm standing in the front of this field near what would have been the driveway, and I'm holding the hand of something. I don't know what. I think at the time when I was recalling the dream, I think I may have said that I was holding the hand of my grandfather. I have since explored the dream a little bit more and know that that's not the case. But at the time, holding the hand of my grandfather, and above me or above us was a UFO. And it was um, the shape of it was kind of like an oval from looking from the ground up, an oval with a notch kind of notched out of the back, and it just kind of hovered there silently above us, maybe 30 to 50 feet, somewhere around in there. Um, my age is hard to really tell, but I would say I'm somewhere around 11 to 12 ish, based on the height of the being next to me and how we were holding hands and where that hand ended up in relationship to my height. That's what my estimate is. But the thing that was holding my hand, it kind of turned and looked down at me and said, "Josh, you're a hybrid, and life will be interesting for you, and we've got big plans for you."
Wow.
And then I woke up again with this very intense dream. I wrote down what I could. I'm a big audio person, so I made an audio recording of my dream when I woke up, at that time. But even now, like I said, it's what they say, burned into your retina. In my case, it's burned into my third eye retina,
Mhm.
and so it's just always there. But that event, of course, getting ready for the podcast, doing a paranormal or woo type podcast, as I'm sure requires a lot of research. And so that was kind of my dipping my toe in the water, so to speak. And over the next, 4 years, just continuing to research and read books and watch documentaries and talk to people and so on and so forth. And it really expanded my understanding of the nature of my reality, which is what I've come to believe is the purpose of having woo experiences, is to cause the person to question the nature of their reality.
Right.
Have you tried to have a lucid dreaming practice?
I have. I have tried. I've tried to have lucid dreaming. I've tried exploring it in out of body experiences, and I've tried exploring it in deep meditations. My difficulty is that I'm a very analytical person, and so I can't put my left brain to sleep. Anytime something happens in those experiences, I want to stop and analyze it right then and there, as opposed to just letting it go and documenting it and going back and analyzing it later.
Okay, let me ask you a few questions then. During this completely lucid event, did you notice things that were impossible in your waking state? Like, did you have 6 fingers, or could you put one hand through another, etc.? Anything that was just so weird you knew it couldn't possibly be real?
Other than the UFO hovering above me, no. At that point in time, no.
I
Um,
gotta tell you, Josh, I have now gone over 100 of these things with Lala. And just one person's opinion. I don't know you that well. I'm
Yep.
going to give you one person's opinion. That's a completely recovered memory.
Well, yeah, I know it is a recovered memory because of one factor: smell. When you dream, you don't smell, and I have smell sense from that dream. I could smell the farm. I could smell um the odor, I guess is the word, but it wasn't like a stink odor. It was just a subtle fragrance, let's say.
Was your age and your grandfather's age appropriate? Were you the right ages to be together?
Yes.
Okay,
But
so did he have any memory?
he unfortunately he died in 2007, which would have been after the event of the dream, but before I had the
Okay, it
dream.
really sounds like a recovered memory. And so I've listened to some hybrids, not having the experience myself, but some hybrids say that doors open on these memories at pre-planned times, according to whoever put them there.
Yeah. I have no illusions that it's not. I don't believe in circumstance, and I don't believe in the possibility of just things happening out of that was the way they happened to come together at that point in time. So the fact that it was a week before starting a podcast, which would cause me to interview people and to read up on topics and investigate cases and so on and so forth, as it relates to delivering that podcast. I know that it was a primer. It was an initiative. It was an initiation, if you will, to prepare me for the journey that I've been on. As I mentioned, I have done with another friend of mine during COVID, so it was virtually, which was interesting. But I did a deep meditation to try to recover any aspect of that event. And the only thing I was able to recover, which is pretty significant, is that it's not my grandfather that was holding my hand. It was, and I don't know what to call it, but it had a human shape, but it was made up of galaxies and nebulae and stars. I mean, it had no face. It was like where its face would have been was just a swirling galaxy. So yeah.
Okay, so what year was this? Did the event occur?
The dream, or let's move away from dream. Let's call it the nighttime recovery, or the
actual event. What year do you think it was?
So I think that I was somewhere around 10 to 12, which would be either like 88 to 90.
Okay, so the gist of my question is, I'm sorry, when did you have the quote dream unquote?
2019.
Okay, so the dream is after contact and the event is before contact. So you sound like Ellie Arroway with the entity on the beach, in that, except it's your grandfather's farm. It's all very interesting, but it really does sound like a recovered memory.
Yeah, and I've got a good friend who does quantum hypnosis. I think she's been on your all show a couple of times, Debs.
Oh no, Debs did our quantum hypnosis.
Okay, and so I want to go through that process with her, but every time it's really interesting because like I was actually just talking with her earlier today. I'm every show or book or anything that I read or consume, I always, as I'm reading it, formulate my own ending, if you will, and then as I read on, I see if I was correct in my assumptions, and pretty high percentage I usually am. And so in my real life, in this kind of journey that I'm on, it's like I'm trying to do the same, only all of my assumptions so far have been wrong. Not wrong, but let's say misplaced, misidentified. And so the difficulty that I have is that I want to try to solve the puzzle before the puzzle is ready to be solved. And so every time I go to book a session with Debs, something comes up. So I've I think realized that it's not quite time yet, that I'm jumping the gun, so to speak, on booking that time with Debs, that there's a, like you said, a proper timing for when I will uncover these things, and it's not this time.
So let me say, I want to inform you of the method and ways she works, because it might help you make a decision one way or the other. And tell you what, I'm perfectly willing to send you the link to my quantum hypnosis so you can see it, so you can see what it is like for yourself. It is not a regression to recover memories.
I know.
It is not.
I know.
It is a guided uh, highly meditative state where you are not told what to do, but you are encouraged to pick a kind of event and walk through it with her with her while she is interacting with you.
Right.
And it is an amazing experience. If you're actually wanting to recover the details of that memory, you might want to try someone else first. But Debs would
Yeah.
be the most fantastic possible person to kind of set you up because you will visit past where you want, and then your higher self.
Hmm. Well, and that's actually where I'm at, is that I'm not so much concerned with more details about the event as I am with understanding how they're meant to impact this life existence.
Then she's perfect. This is
Yeah.
a perfect fit. She is
Um,
extremely gentle.
yeah.
There's nothing upsetting in one of her experiences, and you really do get you you don't get mostly you probably don't get what you want, but you definitely get what you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just meditation in general, is that you often don't get really what you go in for. You're like you said, you get what you really need for that next step that you need to take.
Yep.
But all of this is really what has prompted me, over the last 4 years. And I would say really over the last probably 3.5 years. And then about 6 months ago, I felt um, I don't like using the word calling, direction, let's say, to start an LLC with the hope of helping others go through this, finding their true potential selves. And so I've done that up. I only have one client right now, and I did it pro bono, just to kind of help her get her art studio and business stood up. But it's um, that's what I feel like. That's why I really appreciate all the opportunities that I have to come on podcasts, because I feel like this is where this is what I'm actually here for in this life existence, is to help people um, grow beyond the perceived limitations that they place on themselves.
But Lala gets to the next question, but just tell us the name of your LLC.
It's Mystic Journeys.
MysticJourneys.com.
Actually, it's mymysticmentor.com, because somebody already had Mystic Journeys. But
MyMysticMentor.com. Okay,
yeah,
well, we'll make sure that goes in the show notes.
thank you.
I like hearing about the paranormal part. Can you share some experiences you've had with that?
Sure. So I've always, my grandparents' house, and a lot of my paranormal experiences are really centered around their house. And it was, like I said, a farm. The house was built in 1825. It just had a lot of history. When the house was built, it was actually done so that one side of the house was the bottom floor was a doctor's office, and the top floor was a school room, and then the other side of the house was the living quarters. Um, and so my mom's room was the room that was a school. My uncle's room was the room that was just a bedroom. And then the doctor's offices was the living room. And in the living room, there was a lamp that would constantly turn on. There was an organ that would constantly turn on. Um, so it's just all of that kind of stuff was always happening in that house. And so a lot of my experiences are really centered around that house. My psychic experience that I mentioned early on when I was a kid, that happened in that house.
Okay.
Um, so the one of the, I guess, the best ones for that house is a neighbor down the street had gone into the hospital for an illness, and my grandparents and I went to visit her in the hospital. And when we came back, and when it, start turning the lights on, going through the house and such, there was a rocking chair in the dining room, on the living side of the house, that was rocking on its own. And it had a big, heavy, crocheted, blanket on the back of it. So in order for it to rock forward again, there was some pressure, that was applied to pull the chair forward. And it wasn't like a little movement. I mean, it was full rock, like somebody was sitting there rocking it.
Oh my God.
And so both my grandmother and I basically said, that's probably, Miss Wilburn was the woman we went to visit in the hospital, and her husband had passed a year before. And we just figured that was him saying thank you for, going to visit his wife.
That's good.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
The, little things like that, over the years. My big paranormal stuff though really started happening again after my 2019 memory event. I've actually got a picture of a spirit in an investigation that I went to. We went. I can't say a whole lot about it because it's a part of a show that's getting ready to come out. But we went to investigate a business in Louisville, Kentucky. This is where I'm originally from, is the Kentucky area. And the people that were there that night, there we had a regular paranormal investigation group, and then just myself. I just kind of tagged along as somebody sent me an invite, and I joined in. I took one photo the entire night, and in that one photo, I captured the spirit. And I can see if I can throw.
Yeah, let's do that. Absolutely. Yeah, please share it. We'll bring it
in. So just give me one moment here while I
take your time.
Send it to myself. But it's in that particular ghost investigation or spirit investigation is where I was introduced to dowsing rods. And that has been an exploration on its own.
They're fun. Yeah, we have them.
Yeah, she's an amazing dowser.
Yeah, I've had a lot of really great conversations. In fact, I'm working on a method to use dowsing rods to get more detailed information other than yes, no questions.
Yeah.
Because that's the limitation, right? Is the yes, no questions.
Oh, we get her to have the dowsing rods point at where we've lost stuff, and she's almost always right on target.
Yep, I've done that a couple times as well, and yeah, been pretty consistent in being able to catch things. I really wish that I had a way to share these. I need to get these moved over to my computer as opposed to on my phone. But
you can go ahead. You can do that. That'll be great. So our first paranormal experience together in this house we've now in our third year of living was interesting. Our audience has heard it, but let me share it with you.
Okay.
Is it the face? Is it the face?
No.
Oh, thank God.
No. I said our first paranormal experience.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We had moved in. We began having thumping, things moving, hearing stuff. So I decided to get a security camera, and I put it up inside just to make sure it was running, propped it up on a box in the foyer. And in the middle of the night, you could hear something walking through, light switch flip on, the thing go from night mode to day mode, and something shadowy walking in front of the camera.
Wow. And
just as it did, it records an absolutely perfect electronic voice phenomenon saying, "Hello, Xander." And it was the deceased boyfriend's voice talking to his son.
My boyfriend.
Yeah.
Our son.
Wow. Yeah. That's wow.
That'll wake you up.
That was the first time in he'd been past 2 years then. That was the first time he ever did something that big before. I mean, he had knocked on the wall and dreams and things like that, but it was nice. So we still have it. I think we put it on Facebook.
Yeah, it's up on Facebook. People can hear it.
All right. So I've got the pictures here.
You share screen share it?
Yeah, I think he can. No, I think he can share it.
Okay.
You can click present and go, let me make sure I've enabled that.
Yeah, I've got a share screen. Or
Okay, good. Go for it.
PDF. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what else is going to come up when I click share screen. So let me make sure I've got stuff closed out that I don't need to have open.
Oh, the StreamYard share screen feature is amazing.
It's going to give me the option to pick. Okay, cool. All right.
Yes, you'll be able to pick which tab. There you go. All right, I'm going to bring that on stage. Oh yeah.
So,
wow.
This is and there's, so let me set this up. This is an elevated area. There's a theater below. When this was built in the 20s and 30s, it was used as a roller skating rink on the second floor. So it's a big oval that goes above the theater. This on the left here is a curtain, and they just use this back here for storage. Okay. The paranormal group that was brought in to do the investigation, they tracked down someone who worked at this location back in the 30s, late 30s, and he was in a nursing home, and they tracked him down, and they went to visit and interview him, and they showed him this picture, and he said, "Oh, that's Bobby." And then he asked why it was in color. So he thought it was a real picture of Bobby, and he didn't understand that it was.
Wow.
Bobby was a 6-year-old who actually fell from the roller skating rink and died.
Wow.
There at the building.
Oh, baby.
And so, I mean, to me, it looks like a little sweater here. You've got maybe some overalls or something that goes across this way. And it looks like maybe he's got his hand in his pocket. So.
Yep.
Yep.
It's quite clear that's not a nominal part of the picture. Yeah, it's great. No. That's terrific evidence.
So, like I said, I took one picture the entire time that I was, like the 3.5 hours that I was on that. And this is what showed up in that one picture. In fact, sorry, go ahead, Lala.
Did you get a feeling to take a picture?
Yeah, I mean, at that time I wasn't really in tuned and listening, but yeah, we were just up there walking around, and just for some reason I just pulled out my phone and snapped that picture in that area. So likely it was a feeling or something that I intuited, but I just didn't really pick up on it at that point.
She has this kind of intuitive use of a camera, especially on a cell phone. This kind of amazes me. I'll work at composing a picture and work at it for a while, and she just kind of lifts her hand, points it, and goes click, and it's perfect composition, no blurring, everything looks like an artist did it. And then one night we were on the deck, and she said, "Oh, let me have the camera." And this being had walked up on us, and she got this picture of it, and it's pretty amazing. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I've actually got another one.
Okay,
I've got it queued up as well.
Good.
All right, and this is actually 2, but I think if I share the window, I can just advance to the next.
You can with a little left-right arrow, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go back to share. So this was after I moved to Arizona, which was in 2022. I have a little thermal camera that clicks into a cell phone. And I was just out taking pictures around my house of I don't need to share the audio. There we go. Taking pictures around my house to basically figure out where I had, heat loss. And
tell us about your FLIR camera.
Yeah. So it's not a FLIR. I think it's Seek is the brand, and it's really small. I mean, it's maybe the size of a thumb drive, and it has a USB-C port right on it, and it just clicks into a camera or to a smartphone or a tablet. Anything that has the USB-C connection on it. So like an iPad now has that. You know, they've moved on from Lightning there. Um, and then you use the Seek app, and then you can take photos or you can record video. Um, and I mean, I've gotten some other interesting stuff on it before. I noticed that back in June you had Shane Hurd. I go out to his ranch a couple times, you know, once a month at least, and we've gotten some stuff captured on that same little FLIR camera. So
Nice.
in video. But
Yeah, I have the FLIR attachment for my iPhone. I love that thing.
I looked at the FLIR and ultimately decided on the Seek based on some online, you know, feedback. But it's really hard to go to a forum or investigate, you know, purchasing a camera when the intended use is to look for UFOs and ghosts. You know, it's not like anybody is doing a review on cameras for that purpose.
Right,
So,
yeah.
but anyway, so this is my daughter's room. What you see here is a window. This has got some slats, like some blinds that you would pull over top of it, and then this is a half window or a half circle window above it. Okay.
Why is it so hot?
Well, it was really hot that day. Now,
Okay.
that's what I was. This was in the summer, and that's what the purposes of doing it. So this is actually the day after I took the photo, but I wanted to show this for context. Oh, wrong one. This is the photo.
Ooh, that's a cold spot.
And so this is the same picture, but there is something standing in front of the window
Yeah.
in this picture. And then I went back in the same conditions the very next day and took the picture again just to see if it was.
Can you go back to the previous one, please? Okay, I got it. I was trying to figure out what that was in the foreground. I get it.
Yep. So you can, you know, it's blocking out, you know, the slats in the window shade and everything. And it's even, you know, there's even here, it's like even blocking out.
Yeah, that's 79 or below. That's a great picture.
So even just the other day, I don't have a photo of this one, but just the other day I was working on moving some stuff around in our closet, and I moved a dresser in there to try to make a little more room. And had moved all my clothes out of another dresser into it, and all the drawers were closed. And I went to take 2 shirts to give them to my daughter to use as sleep shirts. And when I came back, 2 drawers were open.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Huh.
And all during the night, you know, I have 2 cats and they see everything. And all during the night, the cats will run at full steam and run and chase things into the bathroom, into the closet area all night long. So.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. Do you have other kind of, I call it ghost hunting equipment?
I have it all.
Oh yeah, so do we. So do we. That's what I was after.
Yeah. The really hard part for me is coming down on like why I capture evidence. You know, it's like, do I capture evidence to reinforce or to prove myself, right? To prove to myself that it's really happening, or do I capture evidence in hopes that it'll sway somebody else? But what I've really realized is that most people who are very skeptic aren't going to be not skeptic until they have their own experience.
Right. Yeah.
And so no amount of evidence that I put out is going to sway them one way or another. So what I really realized is that, you know, whatever evidence I happen to capture, it's really just to help other people know that they're not alone.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
all you can do.
The greatest thing she did for me when she first gave me a reading after my mother had passed was affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And I had felt my mom, and ringing in my ear.
Yeah.
Her proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that she was in contact with my mother was really uplifting. I bawled like a baby. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, I've had some pretty amazing, you know, a lot of times when I go see tarot readers, I ask the question of how am I progressing on my path, right? On my journey that I'm on. And so it's always very interesting and insightful because I get responses that affirm where I think I am, but then also provide a deeper contextual information that I don't have because I'm so close to my own journey that sometimes I think I miss the details.
Right.
Yeah, she has trouble reading anything about herself.
What do you think is in your home? Do you know? Do you get a feeling?
So I think I have several things in my home. Number one, I am a mile away from a ley line.
Oh.
So I know I'm getting a lot of just stop by visitation kind of stuff as well.
Mhm.
But the things that are here on a more permanent basis, several are my guides. My wife's grandmother is one of my guides. One of my guides lives inside the Sandia Mountains in New Mexico, so they stop by from time to time, check in on me. Um, the other is in um, another life existence. I am a Zeta Reticuli, and in that life existence, I have a son, and I think that spirit energy of that son comes and visits from time to time.
Okay.
When we first moved into this house, we had a nightlight so all of our bedrooms are on the second floor, and we have a little landing. You go up the stairs and you turn, and there's a little landing. We have a nightlight that sits there in case my kids have to get up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
And so we also keep our door cracked because if we don't, the cats constantly paw at it until we open it. So we just leave it open. But when we first moved in, maybe like a month or two after we moved in, I was laying in bed. My back was to our bedroom door. And I just happened to wake up and look, and the light, from that nightlight was casting a beam, not beam, like a rectangle of light onto the wall, opposite. And standing in that light was some bald-headed thing.
What?
Cast in a shadow onto the wall. And at the time, I thought it was a gray. But I have done experiments, and in order for it to cast the light that it would have cast for me to see it, it was only about 2.5 feet tall.
Okay.
Wow, that's nice.
So,
do you have any kind of recalled contact whatsoever with grays?
I think that I am right now in contact with grays. I've actually, we'll call it come out of, we'll call it anesthesia that they had me under. And I thought I was remembering a surgery because a bright light was above me and there were 4 doctors working on me. But I was conscious enough to say, "Tell me the truth." And the doctor shapes kind of dissolved away, and it was 4 grays.
Got it. That's not unusual, especially since your logical brain is suspended when you're under anesthesia, and so you get to see it unfiltered. Here's your brain is not trying to fit it
Right.
to meet your expectations of reality. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I've actually come out a couple of times into what I call the space between dreaming and awake.
Yeah,
I
hypnagogic.
often equate it to like that part in the Matrix. I think it's the second movie where Neo finds himself in like this, train station, and he's like, he can get on a train and go back to reality, or he can get on a train, But it's kind of the same way. I think that it's like it's like a space. It's a liminal space between realms, if you will.
Right.
And so I can either in that space, I can either just go back into what is likely an astral travel situation,
Yep.
or I can wake up. But I purposefully keep myself in that space as long as I can, and then seek out answers and seek out truths. And that's where I've gone to the astral plane and gone to a bar and had a drink with an entity in a bar on the astral plane. That was an
Did they
interesting
play funny music like Star Wars?
no, but it was really the best way I can explain it was like, have you ever seen like the vapor wave or the synth wave stuff where it's like really, really bright lights? Like,
Mhm.
they're all very neon color.
Yeah.
That's what it was kind of like. And then this entity sitting there had the head of an elephant. So
Oh, God.
Wow, that's terrific. All right. Well, so of all of your paranormal experiences where you were not, which are not personal, if you have any, what was the most astounding that you can recall?
in the paranormal category, we're thinking spirit interaction.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Um, probably the capturing of that picture that I shared earlier was pretty significant. Although it wasn't like
That's
an
amazing.
interaction. I mean, if there was ever like a, what my friends used to say, a pudding moment where the proof is in the pudding. I mean, that's a pudding moment right there.
So, how far are you from Sedona?
2.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah. You should go visit Melinda in Sedona. And I've never been out with her where we didn't see 2 dozen or more craft.
Yeah, I am conflicted because I went on a UFO tour in Sedona, and the person who, it was not Melinda, it was somebody else. I thought I was booking through Melinda, but Shane and I went up and we thought we were going on a Melinda tour, and it turned out to be somebody else. But in that other tour, the person, spent like 30 to 45 minutes really talking about how only 11 satellites fly over top of Sedona, and
What?
everything that you see after 7:30 p.m. isn't a satellite, it's a UFO. And then I was seeing them all with a naked eye because my wife was with me, and you have to share night vision. So I just let her have the night vision, and I was seeing everything they were seeing with the naked eye. And I'm like, these are all satellites. They're all
Yeah.
satellites.
No, especially since Starlink's been up, you'll
Right.
see hundreds of satellites.
Well, you
Now,
see,
after it's near your local midnight,
right.
they are not likely to be illuminated by the sun. But I
Yeah,
mean, but look, I won't call anything abnormal unless it changes velocity and direction.
So, I mean, like I told Shane after we found out that we had booked with the wrong person and had this horrible experience, that I'm willing to try Melinda's. But I'm also, I would say, even more skeptical now than I would have been before.
Yeah.
Tammy, we're talking about Melinda Leslie. Melinda Leslie is an extremely well-known experiencer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that's,
psychic.
I would think Melinda would not go out there and mislead people, given the nature of the work that she does. But, it's just because of that really bad experience, it's really left me like with a bad taste in my mouth.
I get it. I totally get it. You don't want
that kind of
try
money
not
for
to
it.
get a scam artist.
Yeah. And like I knew that there was only going to be one night vision optical that was going to be provided per couple. And so I brought my own Psionics Aurora Pro in hopes that I could use it. And they were like, no, you gotta leave all phones and night vision in the car. We can't have it out here. And I'm like, yeah, this just seems.
Yeah, here's my favorite toy. That's my Psionics Opsin.
Oh, you got one of those?
Yeah, oh my goodness, that thing. So I'm so mad at myself, but I always tell on myself. The first night, I hadn't really gotten it all down, but I put it up to my eye and I looked and I started recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, and the most perfect, gorgeous triangle craft appears in the northern sky. I look up, it flies straight over our house and beyond, so I couldn't see it. And I got so excited that I just turned the camera off to run inside and get it off the SDHC card. And of course, it had not yet flushed its cache to the SDHC card. So I completely lost the perfect triangle video.
Yeah. I was also, when I first got mine, I was out, just kind of looking at how, what's really cool is, you can see all your neighbors are so polite to, who have the outdoor ring cameras and stuff. They're so nice to light up the backyards with IR for you for your camera. They don't even know that they're doing it. But I was just out checking all that stuff out, and here's this bright light coming, across the sky. Like, oh wow, look at this thing, and I'm totally checking it out. And then I recorded it, and I'm showing it to everybody, and then I decided to go and investigate what it is, and it was the International Space Station.
Yeah. If it doesn't change direction and have really different velocities during my viewing. So I have a video, which is on our Orbis Paranormal YouTube channel, where you can see multiple things zigzagging, changing speed, stopping, moving, taking off. That was the most active night we've ever had here. And those are not satellites when they do all that zigzagging.
Well, we've made mistakes.
Yeah, we have made mistakes.
So it's normal.
We've videoed bugs. We videoed spider webs where it looked like a UFO was coming up out of the yard. We've made mistakes, but we've also learned.
Yeah, I mean that's how you learn what to rule out, right? Is you have to, So,
do you think that your whole family gets visited by otherworldly, or do you think that they're hybrids as well? I mean, I guess your kids would be, right? But is your wife, do you think?
I don't think my wife is, although I'll say that my wife and I have been, and this is going to sound very corny, but my wife and I have been a bonded pair across multitudes of our life existences. And so, we're together now, I think, so that we can each have the best possible experience of this life existence. It really was a situation of love at first sight. The very first time that I saw her anew, which is always, you can't lead with that the first date. So, but no, I mean, it's, I don't think that she's a hybrid, but I do think that we are with each other so that we can each, really grow in this life experience. Yeah.
So of all of your UFO investigations in the field, what is the one you really want to tell us about?
What do you want to do? What's your plans that you're excited about also?
So I'll answer the first question. So from a MUFON investigation perspective, I've only got 11 cases. I'm a fairly young baby investigator. But so far, the cases that I have that are the most that stand out the most to me are it started out as a person in below Tucson in a town I think called Benson, I think is the name of the town, but it's kind of to the southeast of Tucson. They would go out at night and see these lights that would just kind of get bright and move across the sky, go up to an area and disappear. 2.5 hours after sunset, low on the horizon, let's say around 15 to 20 degrees on the horizon. in the northwest, so in the direction of sunset. But again, sun was around 20 to 22 degrees below the horizon at that point in time, likely not satellites. Did a full investigation. Um, I actually closed the case because another investigator suggested they were satellites, and so I took it as satellites and said, okay, I closed the case for satellites. The very night that I closed the case for satellites, they didn't show up. The exact conditions were the same. They were not present. So I emailed the head investigator of the state and said, hey, I think we need to reopen this case. When the next day the case was reopened, that night they showed up. So, that was probably the one. And the reason that one stands out for me is because, like I mentioned, Shane Hurd lives about an hour north of me, and I go to his ranch about once a month. And after I had that case, I went to his ranch and looked in the direction at the time that the other person was seeing them, and I saw them from his ranch.
Wow.
And a number of times I've gone out to his ranch. Like he'll go out and we'll look every night. They won't be there. I'll go out there and look, and they'll be there. So it's a case that I investigated, but I was able to witness firsthand the phenomena based on the case.
Wow. Yeah, I have beard envy with Shane.
Well, at least you grow a beard.
What was your question?
Well, two parts. Well, the one was, what are you looking forward to in the future? Is there something you'd like to investigate that you haven't yet? And also, do you guys ever investigate, maybe not demonic, but do you do possession cases and stuff like that? Because sometimes you don't know if it's alien or other things all the time.
So technically, MUFON does not. They do have, which I think Shane is the member of in Arizona, the ERT, which is the Experience and Resource Team. And so they'll put you in touch with people that may be able to help you work through it. But I have never investigated or been a part of let's say, a demonic or any of that type of, and I'm really, so I hope this doesn't offend anybody in the audience, but I'll just say, for me, I grew up raised in a Christian church, in a Southern Baptist church, actually. And when I was 18, I started to explore other areas of spirituality. And so I have rejected myself a lot of the things that I was taught growing up. And so for me, the word demon is charged for me for my upbringing. So I tend to think of these things instead as lower vibrational entities.
Right.
And a lower vibrational entity will mess you up simply because they need to bring your vibration down to their level so that they can interact with you. When your vibration is down to a really low level, you have a really crappy day. You have a really crappy week, month, year, whatever the case would be. Everything goes wrong because you're not vibrating at the appropriate level. Your frequency isn't high enough.
Right.
And so because of that, the only thing that I can say for most people, I think, that are encountering those lower vibrational entities is you have to figure out a way to raise your vibration, and that's in the course of doing so, it will go away because it's only there to feed off of you anyway. It's feeding off your energy that you produce when you have fear, when you have anxiety, when you have grief. It's feeding off of all of that stuff. And so if you can move past those feelings and those emotions and figure out a way to use them to your benefit and raise your vibrational state, it'll go away.
So do you have a meditative practice, or how do you practice?
So I have ADHD, and it's really hard for me to keep a consistent meditative practice. Yeah. I have, though, built shortcuts, or easy buttons, or a keystroke thing from a programming perspective. So, for example, anybody who's done the Gateway experience from Bob Moreau, will know that he talks about forming the energy bubble, around you for protection.
Mhm.
My first kind of teachers were more of the pagan side of the house, and so they taught it to me more from a grounding
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
protection perspective.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
bottom line, the premise is still the same, right? You're creating a safety barrier around yourself. So
Mostly it's the intention to
yeah,
which you apply energy. If you,
right,
irrespective of the practice, it's
yeah.
intention to which you apply energy.
Yeah.
And so what I have done is I've basically for myself created a shortcut that is flame on. And I imagine like Johnny Storm from Fantastic Four, right? I kind of set the intention of protection. I say flame on, and then immediately the bubble is around me, and I'm good to go. I don't have to spend 15 to 20 minutes in a meditative state to get there.
Well,
Um,
that 15 to 20 minutes, let me tell you, from doing interesting things in my life, that will get you killed or hurt. You don't have time for that. So you build up a practice that puts you in an alert and fully present state, whatever it takes.
mhm.
And you don't go out in the field until you can do it. That's
Oh
my
yeah,
advice.
I actually my very first foray into channeling was with a friend. We were out near Lake Pleasant in Arizona, and I channeled an entity that refused to leave me.
Oh shit.
And luckily, my friend was he's a Reiki practitioner as well as just a witchy guy, and he was able to get it out. So,
Good.
but
Good.
yeah, I after that I realized that I really needed to get into a situation where I had a much stronger ability to activate my defenses in a moment's notice. And I pretty much now, uh, all the time, I'm grounded and I'm shielded nonstop. Sometimes I go places where I can feel the energy kind of pushing beyond the barrier just a little bit, and so I just shield a
Mhm.
little stronger or redo the flame on or whatever the case may be to
Good.
re up my defenses. But
If you're constantly maintaining your shield through intention and energy practice, you are fully present and in an alpha raised state. So it's you figured out a way to get in a meditative state that works for you.
it's like I think it's on one of the Avengers movies. They ask the Hulk guy, how do you stay from getting angry? And he said the secret is I'm always angry, and that's the thing is that I'm always on, and then that way I'm in more control of what I interact with and what I allow to interact with me.
My particular practice began before I ever knew anything about woo. And I was a teenage science fiction reader and I read Dune.
Hmm.
And so I begin the fear litany and I just go cool. And after that, I'm okay.
Yeah, Dune is there are quite a few movies that really speak to me and resonate with me on all kinds of levels, and Dune is one of them. In fact, all the time I say to myself, the whole line around um, fear, fear is the mind killer.
I I think that hybrids and people with more psychic ability than others, they attract more things that want to be like little mosquitoes to us, you know? I really do. I feel like it's a
Yeah,
constant thing, you know?
yeah. I've sometimes I let's say open the doors for business, and I kind of feel like there's a line that kind of forms around the corner. Everybody waiting to get their turn.
Yeah.
Um, And one of the things that I really love to do whenever I can is when I'm talking to something, I ask it, do you want to move on? And if the answer is yes, then I basically do like I guess it's like a kundalini, energy out the top of my crown, and I feel it leave the space, and then unfortunately, then it's the next one comes along and they want the same thing, and so I usually have to cut them off after 5 or 6 of those. I feel tired,
Sure.
so.
Yep. It's cost. Okay, so Josh, tell people what it is how to get in touch with you and what's coming up next.
Yep. So you can go to mymysticmentor.com if you're interested in having me help you, navigate the paranormal, or just how it's affecting your life, or any of that sort of thing. I do offer free consultations, and so you can do that. If you feel like it's a good fit, then we move on from there. So that's mymysticmentor.com. I have a YouTube channel, which is Mystic Journeys. Go figure. Mystic Journeys 44 is the handle. I've got a podcast, although I'm right now in between seasons. And then next up for me, I don't think I have anything on the block as far as, speaking appearances or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm always open to anybody who wants to have a conversation. Let's do it. So just be on the lookout for anything I might be on in the future, I guess.
Are you intending to go to the Spaced Out Radio fan party in Vegas?
I am.
We'll see you there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Josh, for being here.
You.
It was a terrific interview, and we learned stuff, and I'm sure our audience did. There are people that were in our audience tonight that I would like to put you in touch with. I think it would be mutually beneficial. And so, everyone, good night. We're happy to have you here. Be sure that you know about tomorrow night's stuff by looking at Lala's X posts or on our Orbis Paranormal page on Facebook. It's been terrific, and we're happy to have had Josh here. Good night, all.
Thank you.